Since you kept complaining about how my tier list for new players didn't accurately reflect a tier list about the potential of Kuva weapons in the endgame, which I don't think we need to hot dial Sherlock on this one. Again, we are talking about John Dover here, Inara's main number 567, who just completed the War Within. 20,000 endo to their name, half of which is bound in their mods already, and a general lack of a single clue about how the vital yet hidden mechanics of this game works, causing them to build their weapons like this. And the free copies I got, like 50 copies of each, basically boils down to, well, if you just invest 500,000 endo into this very specific build, get the augment mod for the weapon, and then buy this ribbon mod for several thousand platinum, then this weapon totally becomes viable. 2. You just put all the AoE weapons in top tier. 3. You didn't put Kuva Nukor or the Ogris in Picket, which is the only AoE weapons I didn't put in that tier. But since you all wanted an endgame version of this tier list, fine. Also, I will not be using mods footage from the simulacron because yeah, that wasn't helpful at all. And also, I'm not spending upwards of 50 hours in Disruption just for some B-roll. It's not happening. Besides, we can just agree that the power creep is completely out of control and that level cap means absolutely nothing. I mean, someone actually made Bratton MK1 work on level 9,999 demo lists. It's hardly even a challenge at this point. Also, just to be clear, I'm ranking them based on their peak performance, but excluding glitched interactions that could be patched out of the game at any moment and against the rest of the weapons in the game. I don't want to see a single comment about this. And also, since I know some of you have a difficult time activating all 4 brain cells at once, I will be avoiding sarcasm, ambiguity, jokes of any kind, tonality, manner of speech, while over-explaining everything, and all the colors are black. Just kidding, I'm not changing shit. Kuva Drakgoon. This is going to set a pretty solid baseline for the rest of the video, as I don't think it's a good Kuva weapon. It doesn't accomplish any of the things I would want a gun to do. Delete anything I look at directly. Clear hordes of enemies at once. Specialize in a single job. Utility. It's a rapid-fire shotgun with a charge mechanic I find infuriating. Big gun, shoot many bullets, good riven disposition. Comparing this to the Kuva Hind is just less damage and smaller magazine. Again, we're comparing 2 bullet hoses here, not much to talk about. How much damage do one look at enemy? With that being said, steel path enemies still melt instantaneously. It's almost like ranking weapon at this level is kind of pointless. Anyways, it's good, and if you get a ribbon with crit chance, crit damage and a harmless negative, well, hello there. Anyways, Kuva Kohm, shoot many bullets, do big damage, big bleed. You know what, the Kuva Kohm is not that spectacular, but I really do like it, and so does a lot of people apparently. I couldn't tell you why though, a good blend between fun and actually being effective, I suppose. Then we have the Ogris, and I just want to address Nightwatch Napalm, which I was spammed with over and over again. Let's look at how good it actually is, shall we? It deals 30% of your damage over 6 seconds, so that is a total of 30% damage, with a 68% chance to trigger a heat proc. Each heat proc deals 250% of the 5%, which is a total of 12.5% of your damage. 12.5% over 6 chances to trigger with a 69% chance to trigger is a 51% damage increase, plus the 30% you already get from just the damage over time of Nightwatch Napalm, and that is a 81% damage increase. Phew, that's really good. But unfortunately, I just couldn't get it to perform at the level of the Bramma in terms of damage anyways, not to mention that it has to reload. A weapon quite a bit above the average, but still with a few things holding it back. I actually wanted to like this gun, but no. Here is the thing though, it is playable in the endgame. No, actually it's way more powerful than that. But considering that the Hind can deal more damage up close than this shotgun, and that it can do so from basically any range, and the fact that missing with the shotgun is more punishing, this gun does leave a lot to be desired. But if you prefer to use shotguns, you're gonna like this one. Okay, the Tonkor. I can't stress this enough. Almost none of these are bad. But, and that's a pretty big but, even I, the AoE tart of the Warframe community, would not use this over the top tier single target weapons. And yes, I did try the augment. I just didn't deal enough damage. When Butcher stopped going down in one shot, it's a problem. I kept moving the Brakk up and down this list. I just couldn't make up my mind about this weapon. But in the end I decided I personally, obviously, don't like this weapon. The reload is just long enough with the magazine size being so small that it started getting on my nerves. And while you can do this, that's also true for all the other weapons we've looked at so far, except for the Tonkor. And you have to be up in the enemy's grill to do so. So not only do you need to find your next target, you also need to close the gap, which means that a lot of the time you're not dealing optimal damage. The most terrible definition for the Kraken is a pretty good gun, but an underwhelming as all hell Kuva weapon. It's just a slow firing pistol, which in my opinion is the worst weapon type. Some of them can make up for this by having a ton of damage, but this, I kind of already gave it away. If there is a hyper-specific build where this outperforms some of the weapons above it on this list, I would actually love for you to link it in the comments. Then we have my most used secondary, Kuva Nukor. It's a perfect support for many weapons, though some can make better use of the epithet. The thing is as well, building for heat or even electricity while stripping the enemy's armor will result in amazing damage, so it really holds its own. It truly belongs with the greats. So the thing I talked about earlier with some weapons overcoming the single target pistol syndrome, this is one of those weapons. You point this at the head of something that's like not a demo list and it's gone. It's definitely swaying on the edge of being too slow. I mean, if you bring this into public, you're probably just not going to get any kills. Still, a weapon that can one-tap anything is probably worth something, right? I don't see the hype surrounding the twins. Stubbas, even with priming through the Zero and the enemies being held perfectly still within snare, they still failed. Bullet hoses are inherently kind of boring. You can kind of say that about AoE weapons as well, but I do feel that it is a bit more obvious here. There is only one reason to play them: DPS. I feel like the Kuva Heck belongs both in OP and bad. It sucks in most cases. Okay, maybe that's a bit much, but it fails to impress me most of the time. But then it one-shots liches, ironically enough, and Archon boss fights. I want to dedicate a video to damage attenuation, and since the Kuva Heck is at the center of that debate, I invoke my privilege to withhold my opinion on the Kuva Heck till then. This is the first weapon that goes into bad tier, which I consider to be way below underwhelming. I'm just gonna say it right away, the Ayanga is going down here as well. There is just so much wrong with these weapons, so let's go over each massive flaw. Number 1. When you equip an arc gun, you lose access to your other weapons, so you can't use your primer, which makes up a lot of your damage potential. 2. You don't deal enough damage like at all. 3. You can't use weapon arcanes on them, so you just casually lose 320% damage compared to actual weapons. 4. They run out of ammunitions and have to recharge for several minutes before you can use them again. So much worse than the Mausolon, which I would place between good and great. And 5. Yes, the AoE is slightly useful in Archwing missions, but seriously, fuck Archwing missions. They suck a big old toad, don't at me. I'm more of a Bramma than a Zarr kind of guy, but I don't deny the immense power of the Zarr when played on Gauss or Harrow. But it's not even playable in some missions at this point. But in endurance mission, it still absolutely slaps. It benefits greatly both from reload speed and from fire rate, which makes it a perfect fit for your boy Gauss. I think the Bramma will always be my favorite, and while I think it's generally better than the Zarr across most builds, its upper potential is just not quite as high, and not gonna lie, the cringy ammo nerfs hurt, the horrible Eximus changes hurts, and besides, with more and more powerful weapons making it into the game, I think we're coming to an end of an era. It's still an extremely powerful weapon, I just don't think it breaks the game in the way it once did. Okay. So the Kuva Chakkhurr baseline is not that great, it needs a lot of support to work, but it scales really well with that support. Again, Gauss with either Eclipse or Ensnare plus Firestorm, it's hardly a sniper. And, well, what can I say? Judging the weapons at their peak performance, it has to go here. My opinion on the Shildeg has not changed. Someone said it's the best hammer in the game, which, alright, fine, that might be true, but it's still a hammer. 40% follow through is abysmal, and it's not exactly bleeding anyone, is it now? So it must have incredible damage, right? Right? I stand by what I said about the alternate fire being a gimmick that's both too slow and needs way too much ammunition, but again, I know I said that I wasn't going to use the simulacrum, but... And it fires this rapidly. And also, I don't have a weapon arcane ulceration nor any buff that gives damage. I think this weapon is a monster worthy of high amazing tier like this alone, and I've horribly handicapped its potential. Just imagine 300% damage with 30% headshot multi with arcane deadhead, prime bane mod instead, and 500% multiplicative damage with Eclipse. Yeah, it goes here. I know, I shouldn't show you this, I'm gonna skew your opinion, but it's so fun. The Flux rifle is like the bleed weapon, in no small part due to the augment. How could I not put it here? I really like the Arca Plus more. Is it as good of a single target weapon as some of the other top tier weapons? No. AoE? No. So why am I ranking it so high on the list? It's powerful enough as to not bother me when using it, and I think it's quite fun and unique. Just the reload sound alone moves it up a few tiers. I know this is going to bother a few people since I've been ranking most of the weapons purely based on DPS so far, but what else am I supposed to be ranking the Kuva Hind, Kuva Kraken, Tenet Tetra, Tenet Diplos and so on based on if not their DPS? I mean, if they fire bullets in a straight line, that's a bullet hose. So okay, apparently I was really tired when I wrote this because I wrote Kuva Nukor. But anyways, so the Kuva Nukor of the Tenet weapons. Tenet Cycron, yeah, same deal, right? Throw together a heat build with Cascadia Flare and the Cedo as a primer with the faction damage mod in question, and watch the fireworks. If I had to differentiate it from the Nukor, I'd say that it's better with grouping abilities because it then recharges while you cast them. I don't know guys, I got nothing. It's really great, go use it. So I will be completely transparent here, people kept spamming me with the augment mod for the Flux rifle and the Ogris, and I already knew about both of these, but I did not know about the Detron augment, which seems to have a lot of potential. You need to strip armor just for it to work, but then again, it seems like this was made for the corpus. I will agree that it seems to have a lot of potential, but I need to experiment more before I can pass judgment on this weapon, so I'm withholding my judgment for now. I despise the Tenet Plinx, it's just not for me. I had to shop around and see what other people had been capable of doing, and then some theory crafting with the max magazine ribbon and yada yada. The secondary fire mode seems to save the weapon, but it's just not for me. The charge time kills me. Here is a weapon that rivals even the mighty Bramma. The main upside is that you get back 2 ammunition with each pickup. Woo! I know how that sounds, but I'm actually not kidding. Having 200% ammo efficiency and a larger clip makes it a lot more versatile. The main drawback is of course the long reload time. It's conditionally better. And by that I mean that it's pretty damn good on Gauss. Tenet Diplos, big bullet, shoot minigun. It is entirely possible that I just don't understand the Spirex. I would be willing to believe this because nothing I did were capable of producing even respectable results. I suppose it's meant to be used like a status primer gun kind of maybe thing. I don't know, it just legitimately seems bad. I wouldn't ever use this, not even for the memes. I would call it underwhelming, but I got exactly what I was expecting. Disappointing nonetheless, I really wanted this to be good. Anyways, someone said that you can basically eat the spear, or rather you can eat the enemy the spear is lodged in with Grendel, which is kind of funny but in a tragic way. Okay, I almost tossed the Gentus into underwhelming. And to be fair, it is very much so a meme and not actually super viable, but it is kind of fun. Zaku with Sly Wolperfiler and the Karnas mod set with some shield gating makes for an alright Zaku melee build, which is something I thought I'd never say, so I'll spare it for now. I'm lumping Gregory and Exis into one category. I really don't have much to say, maybe Exis is slightly better, but ultimately they are both above average, but so far below other weapons in the same weapon type that I'd never actually use them. But on the other hand, we have our final weapon, the Tenet Livida, and it's a two-handed Nikana. Need I say anymore? Actually, let me just show you instead. And then when you play it on a melee-based frame like Varuna, it just gets ridiculous. I'm not sure it belongs up here, but I also don't think it belongs in the same tier as the fucking Plinx. So maybe it's the bias speaking, but I think we can put it here. Okay, this is the part of the video where the outro is supposed to be, but I didn't write anything, so I'm just gonna end the video mid-sentence.